Hey, what's going on everybody? This is Keegan here and welcome back to my channel, and I'm back with a brand new video for you guys. And today I'm going to be showing you guys my DVD collection for 2021. So back in March last year I did a DVD collection video, and since then my collection has increased and slightly decreased at the same time. I have a total of 205 DVDs and I have two shelves to go through. So this is going to be a long video, and I don't really have too much else to say, so sit back, relax, enjoy the video, and let's get started, shall we? So we're going to start off on the very top of the second shelf with my box sets, and we're not going to go through the second shelf right yet. We'll go through the second shelf later on in this video, but we're going to start up on the very top of the second shelf with my box sets. Starting up, we have the Alien and Predator Total Destruction Collection box set, which includes Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, Alien Resurrection, Predator, Predator 2, Alien vs. Predator, and Alien vs. Predator Requiem. I bought this box set at Walmart 4 years ago, and it's a pretty cool box set if you like the Alien and Predator movies. Although it doesn't come with all of them. It doesn't include the 2010 Predators movie and The Predator, and it also doesn't include Prometheus, which was the prequel to Alien, and the sequel, Alien Covenant. But it's a nice box set. And then we have the Clint Eastwood 35 Films collection box set, which includes, I'm going to pull it out, these movies, which you can pause and read it out to yourself. Pretty cool box set. I haven't seen all of those movies yet, but I've seen most of the ones that are from the 2000s that were included in that box set. And then we have the Hunger Games, the complete 4-film collection, which includes the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. The Hunger Games Catching Fire, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, and Mockingjay Part 2. I said them in the wrong order, but I said in the right order now. Pretty cool set. I like the second one the best, Catching Fire. And the first one was good, and I thought Mockingjay Part 1 was pretty good, and I thought Mockingjay Part 2 wasn't bad, but I don't know. It's a nice set. And then last one for the box sets, we have 6 Feet Under, the complete series box set, which is my favorite TV show of all time. Excellent show. I actually just finished rewatching it for the second time recently, like a couple of weeks ago, and it still has one of the best endings I've ever seen. So that's it for the box sets, and we'll come back to the second shelf later on in the video. But now, let's go to the first shelf with my movies. Off on the first row of the first shelf, we have these DVDs that are not organized, but I haven't gotten around to reorganizing them. We're starting up, we have 22 Jump Street, and I do apologize for the glare. There we go, that's better. Not really, but whatever. Sorry for the glare. Anyways, 22 Jump Street. This is actually my brother's DVD, but he gave it to me, and I don't have 21 Jump Street, but I have seen it. But 22 Jump Street, great sequel. I like the first one too, but I don't know if I like either this one or the first one better, but I don't know. They're both good comedies. And then we have Donnie Darko and Donnie Darko, the director's cut, which Donnie Darko was one of my all-time favorite movies, which it's actually my second favorite movie of all time. Just a really, really great movie from the early 2000s. And I know that there's an Arrow video release of it coming out at the end of this month. I can't wait for it. It's going to be on 4K. I actually pre-ordered it, but I can't wait to get it. And here's the director's cut. I prefer the theatrical version over the director's cut, but I don't mind the director's cut. I know some people don't like the director's cut, but I don't mind it. But now we're going to continue off with the ones that are on the shelf and not on top of each other. We're going to start off, we have Pi, which I know it's the letter P, but I decided to include it with the number of Pi, But yeah, Pi, really, really strange movie, but it's a really, really good movie. It's Darren Aronofsky's directorial debut, who later directed Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, and so on. But really good directorial debut. It's a weird movie, but it's an enjoyable movie. Next up is 28 Days Later, one of my favorite zombie movies and one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's just an awesome movie. I really enjoyed this one. And I also have the sequel, 28 Weeks Later, which it's a pretty good sequel, but I like the first one better, but it's still an enjoyable sequel. And then next up we have American Beauty, which I do plan to get this on Blu-ray at some point. Some people say this movie hasn't aged well, but I don't notice. I think it's fine the way it is. Well, if they mean by don't age well by Kevin Spacey, I can definitely understand it, because it turned out Kevin Spacey's a pedo and all that shit that I'm not going to get into in this video. But American Beauty is still a great movie in my opinion. I don't know why some people say it hasn't aged well. Well, maybe for the whole Kevin Spacey scandals and all that. But I think it's still a great movie all these years later. Next up is The Aviator, the only Martin Scorsese movie that I own on DVD. Really good movie. It's a film biopic on Howard Hughes. But I've only seen it once, like 5 years ago, and I haven't seen it since. I'd like to give this a second watch at some point. I thought this one was a really good movie. Next up is Armageddon. I've seen it before on Netflix a couple years ago. I actually got this DVD fairly recently, but I haven't seen it since I saw it on Netflix, but I remember it being a pretty good movie. One of Michael Bay's good movies, I'd say. Next is the Back to the Future trilogy with all 3 of the Back to the Future movies. I know there's a 4K release of this set. Well, the 35th anniversary. I might buy that at some point. Well, we'll see. But the Back to the Future movies are great. I'd say the first one's the best. The second one's pretty good, and I know some people aren't fans of the third one, but I thought the third one was pretty good. But the first one's the best movie in the series. In the trilogy, I meant. Then we have Bad Education, which I actually just recently picked this up a little while ago. This is a pretty rare DVD. This is out of print, I believe. This is the NC-17 rated version. And I actually recently gave this movie a watch for the first time, like maybe a week or 2 ago. It's a Pedro Almodovar film, and also the first Pedro Almodovar movie that I've watched. And it's a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. And I'll definitely check out some more of Pedro Almodovar's movies in the future. Next up is Bad Lieutenant, the NC-17 rated version. Recently picked this up maybe 2 weeks ago, I'd say. But I didn't pick this up not very long ago, but you might have seen it in a collection update video that I did recently. And I still haven't watched it yet, but I hear it's supposed to be a pretty crazy movie. Next up is The Bad News Bears, the original. I haven't watched it yet. I actually got this one recently. However, I have seen the remake with Billy Bob Thornton, and I thought the remake was pretty good. I haven't seen the original, though, but maybe I'll check it out eventually. Next up is Bad Teacher. Pretty good comedy. Don't really have too much else to say it, but it's a pretty good comedy. Next up is Bachelor Party, one of the few comedies that Tom Hanks was in back in the 80s. Recently picked it up and haven't seen it yet. And before I continue any further, I just want to say you're going to hear me say it a lot of this movie that I haven't seen yet. And some of these DVDs I've had for over a year or 2 and I still haven't watched them. I know I should really get around to watching them. But just a little heads up, you're going to hear me say it a lot in the video. Next up is Black Limousine. Again, recently picked it up and haven't watched it yet. Next up is The Blair Witch Project and Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2. Double feature DVD. Blair Witch Project is a classic, and Book of Shadows Blair Witch 2 is just plain terrible. I don't recommend it unless you're one of those people that likes to watch movies that are so bad it's good, for whatever reason. But I guess I could recommend it if you're one of those people that likes to watch movies that are so bad they're good. But don't really have too much else to say about those. Next up is The Beach. This is the special edition. Haven't seen it yet. Next is Beer Fest. Once again, haven't seen it yet. I actually picked this one up recently. Haven't seen it yet. Then we have Beverly Hills Ninja. Once again, have not watched yet. It has Chris Farley in it. Maybe it's probably going to be funny. I do like Chris Farley. And I know that this was actually his last movie before he passed away in 1997. The same year when this movie came out. But, yeah. Rest in peace, Chris Farley. Next is A Beautiful Mind. Great movie. Really good performance from Russell Crowe. And this is the movie that won Best Picture in 2002. You know, this movie came out in 2001. But, don't really have too much else to say about it other than it's a great movie. Next up is Beavis and Butthead Do America. It's a pretty good comedy if you like the Beavis and Butthead TV show. Apparently, this movie might be getting a sequel or something. I think it is true. I think they might be making a sequel to this movie. I'm not sure, though. I think they are or something. Next up is Birth. This is in a Blockbuster case. I picked this one up fairly recently. Haven't watched it yet, but it looks interesting by the trailer. Next up is Borat, Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. Great comedy. Better than the second one. The second one was okay, I guess, but I like the first one better than the second one. But yeah, it's still a funny movie all these years later. Next is Boyhood. I've only watched it once, like 4 or 5 years ago. Haven't watched it ever since, but I really enjoyed it. Richard Linklater's a great director. This movie actually took 12 years to make, but the end result, it was a really, really great coming-of-age film. Definitely one of the best coming-of-age films of the mid-2010s. Next is Brooklyn's Finest. Haven't watched it yet. Oh. Next up is Broken Flowers. Picked this one up a couple months ago. Haven't watched it yet, but it looks good. I'll probably check it out soon. Next is The Conjuring, and it's the only movie in the Conjuring franchise that I own. Really good horror movie. I really enjoyed this one. It's pretty creepy. Not all that scary, but I thought it was pretty creepy, but it's still a really great horror movie. Next is Crash, the 2005 movie. A lot of people say that this movie shouldn't have won Best Picture. I kind of agree with those people. I don't really care, though, if it wins Best Picture or not, but I didn't really care for this movie too much. I don't know, I just was not really a big fan of it, but it was okay. I just was not really a big fan of it. And then we have Crash, the David Cronenberg one from 1996. And no, these two movies are not the same movie. These are two completely different movies. This one, I will say, is a pretty bizarre yet interesting movie and a freaky movie, if you know what I mean. But surprisingly, this movie was actually filmed in Canada, believe it or not. But it's a pretty bizarre movie. I did a review of this one a little while ago if you want to check that out. But Crash, pretty interesting movie. Yet a very bizarre movie, though. But definitely check it out. It's not for everyone, definitely not for kids, but I'd say check it out if you haven't. Certainly an interesting movie. I also know that there's a Criterion release of this one. I'll probably get the Criterion of it at some point. I'd like to get the Criterion of it one day, but I'll just keep my DVD copy of it for now. Next is Criminal. I've only watched it once, and I thought it was pretty good. I know that this is a remake of a movie called Nine Queens or something. I haven't seen that one, but I hear that it was better than this one, but I thought this one was pretty solid. I'd like to watch the original someday. Next is Crime Plus Punishment in Suburbia. Haven't watched it yet. Picked it up recently, but I haven't watched it though. Next is Catch Me If You Can. Got this one almost 2 years ago, and I still haven't seen it yet, but I'll probably check it out sometime soon. Next is Darkest Hour. Great performance from Gary Oldman, and it's a good movie. Next one is another one I picked up recently, and I haven't watched yet, and that is Dancer in the Dark. It's a Lars von Trier movie. Haven't seen it yet. I picked it up a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, I'd say. But I haven't watched it yet. I hear it's supposed to be a really depressing movie, but I'll definitely check it out sometime soon. Next one I have watched, and that is Dead Alive. This DVD is out of print and very hard to find. I was lucky enough to find this at Revolver. It's out of print, though, especially on Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is out of print. Definitely check this movie out if you haven't seen it. It's an awesome movie. It's very gory, pretty funny, and it's just an awesome movie. Directed by Peter Jackson, who also directed the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. Next is Defiance, a pretty good war movie with Daniel Craig. I've only watched it once, like 4 years ago, but I remember it being pretty good. Next is Divergent, the Divergent series Insurgent, and the Divergent series Allegiant. I thought the first Divergent movie was not bad, not the best, but it was okay. The sequels, however, Insurgent was okay, and Allegiant wasn't very good. There was actually supposed to be a fourth movie, but it got canceled because Allegiant did pretty poor in the box office, but yeah, not much else to say about those. And the last one for this row is The Dreamers, and this is the R-rated version, not the NC-17 rated version. I would like to find the NC-17 version of it at some point, but I know that it's out of print. This DVD is also out of print, but I bought this one on Amazon. I thought it was out of print, but apparently not. But the NC-17 version of it is out of print. Pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. Not much else to say about it, but it is a Bernardo Bertolucci movie. So, yeah, it's a good movie. And now, on to the second row. Alright, so now we're on the second row of the first shelf, and we're going to continue off with Drugstore Cowboy, which I do believe that this DVD is out of print. Haven't watched it yet. I'll probably check it out sometime soon. Next up is Edward Scissorhands, the 10th anniversary edition. Great Tim Burton movie, one of Tim Burton's best movies. Next is Elizabeth, and I know there's a sequel to this called Elizabeth in the Golden Age, I think is what it was called. I don't have it though, but I have this one. Pretty good movie, great performance from Cate Blanchett in it, but I don't have the second one of this movie, but I'll probably check out the second one someday. But, good movie. Next up is Enemy at the Gates. Very good war movie, I really enjoyed this one. You basically got this Soviet sniper, and you got a Nazi, sniper who's trying to find the Soviet sniper and try to kill him. But it's a really good war movie. I really enjoyed this one. Next is The Expendables 3. I do not have The Expendables 1 or 2. I just have this one. And I believe there's actually supposed to be a fourth movie coming out. I'm not sure, though. But this one, it was okay. I like the first one the best. The second one was pretty good, but this one was just okay, I guess. I hated how they toned down the violence to get a PG-13 rating. It's rated PG in Canada. But it was okay. I don't like how they toned down the violence and the gore from the first two movies in order to get a PG-13 rating. But this movie, I don't know, it was okay. Next up, we have Fast Food Nation, another Richard Linklater movie. As you can tell, I bought this one at Goodwill 3 years ago. It's okay. It's not Richard Linklater's best movie, but it's okay. Not much else to say about that one. Next is Foxcatcher. Very good performance from Steve Carell in this movie, and Channing Tatum and Mark Ruffalo did a great job in this movie too. I really enjoyed this one. It's about the team Foxcatcher in the 1988 Olympics, specifically the coach, John, what's his name? I can't remember his name, but it was about the leader and the billionaire of the Foxcatcher team. I can't exactly remember too much about it, but if you know the real story about it, you know what I'm talking about. Next is Final Destination. Haven't watched this movie in a long time. I remember watching it when I was like probably 10 before Halloween back in 2011. But I haven't watched this movie in a long time, but I remember it being pretty good. I don't have the sequels, but I'll pick up the other movies in the series eventually if I can find them. Next is Fighting, unrated. Watched it once 5 years ago. It's a pretty good fighting movie. I don't really remember too much of what happened in it, but I remember it being a pretty good movie. Next is The Final Cut. Picked this one up at Goodwill a little while ago. Haven't watched it yet. Next is Fracture. Again, haven't watched it yet. Next is Fury, a pretty good war movie from the mid-2010s. I liked it for what it was. I thought it was a pretty good war movie. Next up is a double feature DVD with Fubar and Fubar 2. Haven't watched these two movies yet, but I know that they were filmed in Fort McMurray, Alberta, which is in Canada, which I was actually born in Fort McMurray. I don't live there anymore, though, but I was born in Fort McMurray. But I'll probably check out these two movies at some point. Next up is Get Him to the Greek, which is technically the sequel to Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which I don't have, but I have seen. This one I have not seen yet, but I have seen Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and I thought it was a pretty good comedy. But I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably check it out sometime soon. Next up is Ghostbusters 1 and 2, double feature DVD. Both good movies. I know there's a third Ghostbusters movie that I think it's gonna be coming out this year, but I'm not sure though. It was supposed to come out last year, but I'm sure we all know what happened, why it didn't come out last year. And I used to have the remake of Ghostbusters, but I hated the remake, so I got rid of it. Next up is Gia. Picked this one up not long ago, but very recently. Haven't watched it yet. Next up is The Gift. Picked this one up a couple months ago. Haven't seen it yet. Next is The Girl Next Door. Once again, picked it up recently. Haven't seen it yet. Next up is Austin Powers and Goldmember, which is the third movie in the series. It's pretty good, but not as good as the first two. But I don't have the first two movies, but I'll probably pick those up eventually if I can find them or order them off Amazon. Next up is Gran Torino. Get off my lawn. Very good movie. Clint Eastwood did a great job directing and acting in it. It's just a really, really great movie. Next up is Grandma's Boy. Not much else to say about this one. I don't really have too much to say about it, but it's a pretty good comedy. I liked it. Next up is Gremlins and Gremlins 2, The New Batch. Both good movies. I know there's supposed to be a third one supposed to be coming out, but I don't know. I don't think a third movie is necessary. I think it should just have two movies, but it is what it is. Next up is a triple feature DVD, which includes The Grudge 2, and The Grudge 3, which these are the remakes of the original movie called Ju-On. I haven't seen the original movies, but I have seen all three of these movies. The first one is pretty good. The second one and third one, I did not like either the second one or the third one. I don't know, I didn't like the second one or the third one. And I know there was a new Grudge movie that came out last year, but I'm not going to check it out. I heard it's supposed to be terrible from what I heard. Next up is Hairspray, the remake of the John Waters movie. This is from the remake from 2007. I don't have the original from John Waters, but I'll probably check it out someday. But this movie was pretty good. I liked it. Next is Half Baked. I haven't seen it yet. Next up is Hamlet. This is a 1996 movie. Very long movie, 242 minutes. It's 4 hours long. But it's really good. I've only watched it once 5 years ago, but I remember being really good, besides its long running time. I'll probably check it out again someday, if I have the time. Next up is A History of Violence, another David Cronenberg movie. Awesome movie. I know that this movie was actually the last movie to ever be released on VHS, and then the VHS has got discontinued. But, good movie. Next up is Hostel and Hostel Part 2. They're not great horror movies, but I don't know. I had some fun watching them. I know there's supposed to be a third one, but I heard the third one wasn't very good. I think it's on Netflix, but I'll probably check it out on Netflix. I don't know, though, but we'll see. Next up is House of the Flying Daggers. Got this DVD almost 2 years ago, and I haven't actually gotten around to watching it, but I'll probably check it out at some point soon. Next up is I Heart Huckabees. I thought this one was really underrated. I enjoyed this one. It's a good movie. It's funny, and it's really underrated. It's from the same director of Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle, that being David O. Russell. Next is iRobot, pretty good sci-fi movie with Will Smith. Next is The Iron Giant. Very good animated movie from the late 90s. Next is I'm Not There. This is in a Blockbuster case. Haven't watched it yet. Next up, we have In the Cut. I haven't watched it yet, but I know it's from the same director of The Piano, which I really enjoyed. The Piano, that's one of my favorite movies, but I haven't watched this one yet. The next one is In Dreams. Picked this one up a couple months ago. I still haven't watched it yet, but I'll probably check it out eventually. And the last one for this row is Jackass the Movie. I don't have the other Jackass movies or any of the TV seasons of it, but I'll probably get those eventually. I've seen all the Jackass movies, by the way. Good comedy. I really enjoyed it. It's fun to watch. And I know that there's supposed to be a 4th Jackass movie coming out. I can't wait for that one. So that's it for row 2. Now let's go on to the 3rd row. Alright, so now we're on the 3rd row, the first shelf. And we're going to continue off with The Jacket, which I actually recently checked this movie out last week, I'd say. It was either a week or 2 ago when I watched it. Very underrated movie. I really enjoyed it. It's a pretty good sci-fi thriller or something. It's a pretty interesting movie. I'll probably do a review of this one someday. Next up is Jumanji. I don't have Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, or The Next Level, but I'll probably check those ones out eventually. But the first Jumanji is a good movie. I enjoyed it. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. Next up is another collection of movies, and that is the Jurassic Park collection with Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, and Jurassic World. It does not include Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but I'd say the first Jurassic Park movie is the best. The second one was pretty good too. The third one was okay, and Jurassic World was good, but I think the first Jurassic Park movie will be the best one. I have seen Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and I thought that one was okay. But, yeah. I think I might upgrade those movies to Blu-ray or 4K at some point. Next is Joy. I've watched it once 5 years ago. Haven't seen it ever since, but I remember it being a pretty good movie. Very good performance from Jennifer Lawrence in that movie. Next up is Kingsman: The Secret Service. I don't have The Golden Circle, but I'll probably get that one at some point. I'd actually like to get this movie on Blu-ray at some point. But Kingsman: The Secret Service, awesome movie. I enjoyed it. The second one, The Golden Circle, was okay. And I know there's a third one coming out and a fourth one. But, yeah. Don't really have too much else to say about it. Next is The King's Speech. Great movie. That's all I'm going to say about it. And then we move on to The Last House in the Woods, which is part of the Ghost House Underground series. The only Ghost House Underground DVD that I have. Picked this one up at Goodwill, and it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. Next is Lars and the Real Girl, which I actually just watched for the first time a couple of weeks ago. Very good movie. I really enjoyed this one. Ryan Gosling does a great job in this one. It's pretty funny, and I'll definitely do a review of it at some point. Next up, we have the John Wayne 10 Classic Westerns collection, which includes all of these movies. Haven't checked them out yet, but maybe I'll check them out eventually. Next is Lean on Me. Great movie with Morgan Freeman as a high school principal or something. Don't really have too much else to say about it, but it's a great movie. Next up is the Lego Batman movie. A pretty good movie. That's all I'm really going to say. Moving on, we have Life as a House, which I picked this one up a while ago. I still haven't seen it yet. Next up is Lord of War. Very good Nicolas Cage movie. And one of his good movies, not one of his bad movies, but it's a really good one. One of his best movies that he was in my opinion. Next is Lost in Translation. Recently picked it up. Haven't actually watched it yet, but I hear nothing but great things about it. And I've been wanting to watch this movie for a long time. So I'll definitely give this movie a watch at some point soon. Next up is Lovely and Amazing. I'm sorry. Once again, haven't watched it yet, but I picked it up fairly recently. Still haven't seen it though. Next is The Longest Yards, the remake, with Adam Sandler and the late Burt Reynolds. I haven't seen the original movie, but I'll probably check it out someday. Good movie. It's a pretty funny movie. Next is The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Awesome movie. I really enjoyed this one. Next up is The Manchurian Candidate, the remake. I do have the original on Criterion Blu-ray. I haven't watched it yet, but I have seen the original. I enjoyed the original. I'll probably check it out, the remake out sometime soon. Next is Marie Antoinette. Haven't watched it yet. Next is Monster. A very good one with Charlize Theron and Christina Ricci. Very good performance from Charlize Theron as Eileen Wuornos, which this movie was about her life when she turned into a serial killer. But it's a very good movie. I really enjoyed that one. Next is Me and Myself and Irene. Once again, haven't watched it yet. Next up is Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the only Monty Python movie that I own and I've seen. I've only watched it once a couple years ago, but I remember it being a really good comedy. It's pretty funny and a very good comedy from the 70s. Next up is Million Dollar Baby, another Clint Eastwood directed movie that was included in that box set that I showed earlier in the video. Very good movie. I really enjoyed this one. One of Clint Eastwood's best movies that he directed. Next up is Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Haven't watched this movie in a long time, but I remember this movie being pretty good, but I haven't watched it in a long time. I'll probably give it a watch sometime soon. Next up is Munich. Haven't seen it yet, but it is a Steven Spielberg movie, so I'll probably check this one out sometime soon. But I haven't seen it yet, though. Next up is another Clint Eastwood directed movie, and that is Mystic River. Sorry for the glare, by the way. I really enjoyed this one. It's a very good adaptation of the Dennis Lehane novel, and I don't really have too many things to say about it, but it's a really good movie. Next up is Natural Born Killers, the director's cut. I actually watched this movie for the first time a couple weeks ago, and wow, that was an awesome movie. It's a pretty slow movie, it's weird, it's trippy, and it's a very violent movie, but overall, an awesome movie. I'll definitely do a review of this one sometime soon. I'd like to find this movie on Blu-ray at some point. However, the Blu-ray for it is out of print. But if I ever find it on Blu-ray, I'll pick it up. Next up is Outbreak, which is basically 2020 in a nutshell. Pretty good movie, but I think Contagion's a much better virus movie. But this one's still pretty good. Oh, this one's kind of stuck. Next up is Panic Room, which is a David Fincher movie that I haven't seen yet. I bought this one last year, but I haven't gotten around to watching it yet. I'll just leave this one out. So, moving on, we have Poltergeist, the original, which I would like to get this one on Blu-ray at some point. They're here! Yeah, it's a classic. It's very creepy, but it's an awesome movie. Stay away from the remake, though, from 2015. It's terrible. Next up is Pride and Prejudice, a movie that I got almost 2 years ago and still haven't watched yet, but I'll probably give this one a watch at some point soon. Next up, we have The Purge, Anarchy, and The Purge Election Year. I don't have the fourth Purge movie, which was titled The First Purge, but I have seen it, and I hated the fourth one. The first two movies, The Purge and Purge Anarchy, are pretty good movies. The Purge Election Year was okay, and like I said before, I did not like the fourth one, though. I know there's supposed to be a fifth Purge movie coming out, but it's supposed to be the last one, but maybe I'll check it out. We'll see, though. Next up is Ray. Very good performance from Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles. I've only seen this movie once, like 5-6 years ago. But I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a really well done movie. And Jamie Foxx did a good job in it. And he won the Academy Award for Best Actor. And I think he deserved it. Really good performance from Jamie Foxx in this movie, and a really good movie. Next is The Ring, the only movie in the series that I have. I've seen the other ones, though. The second one sucks, and the third one's just terrible. But this one's a good movie. It's creepy. It's not very scary, but it is creepy. And then we have this little bonus DVD that came with it when I bought it. Rings the Circle of Fear is Growing. It's just got some bonus material in it. I haven't actually checked it out yet. Then we have Road to Perdition. I've only watched it once. I've only watched this movie once 5-6 years ago. I remember it being a really underrated and a really good movie with Tom Hanks in it. And I know that this was Paul Newman's last movie he was in. And last but not least for this row is Rogue. Pretty good killer crocodile movie. So that's all for row 3. And now let's move down to row 4. Alright, so now we're on the last row for shelf 1. And we're going to start this row off with The Rules of Attraction. Picked this one up a while ago. Haven't seen it yet, but it does look like an interesting movie. It's a one I've been curious to watch, but once again, haven't watched it yet. Next up is Saved, which I thought was a pretty underrated coming-of-age movie from the mid-2000s. It does have Macaulay Culkin in it, who you might know from Home Alone, the first 2 movies. But I thought this was a pretty good movie for what it was. I enjoyed that one. Next up is The Secret Life of Bees. Haven't checked it out yet, but I'll probably check it out sometime soon. Next up is Sexy Beast. A pretty good movie. I know that this movie was actually going to get a TV show adaptation of it, but I know that the pilot for it got scrapped, so it's not going to happen. Oh well, but Sexy Beast, good movie. I liked it. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Next up, we have The Simpsons movie. It's a fun movie to watch. That's all I'm going to say. Next up is Spaceballs. I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. Great Mel Brooks movie. It's very funny. I enjoyed that one. I'd like to get it on Blu-ray at some point. Next is Split, which is the second movie in the... I can't remember what the trilogy was called, but it also consisted of Unbreakable, which I will get to in a second, and Glass, which I have Glass on Blu-ray. Split is a pretty good follow-up to Unbreakable, and I enjoyed it. And not gonna lie, when I first watched this movie, I didn't realize it was actually a follow-up to Unbreakable until I saw the trailer for Glass. I was like, holy shit. But I didn't realize it until the trailer for Glass first came out. But yeah, I didn't like Glass though. I didn't really like Glass, but I do like Unbreakable, which I do have on DVD, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Next is Stigmata, which I actually watched this one for the first time about a month ago, maybe. I thought this one was pretty good. It's pretty underrated, and I know that there is a Scream Factory release of it on Blu-ray. I don't know if it's out of print though, but I'll try to find that one at some point. But I thought this one was pretty good. Next up, we have The Strangers. I didn't really care for this movie too much. I don't know, I just wasn't really a big fan of it. I know there's a sequel to it called The Strangers Pray at Night. I don't know if I'll check it out though, but maybe. Next up is Swim Fan. Picked this DVD up a little while ago. Haven't checked it out yet. Next up, we have another DVD that I picked up fairly recently, like a couple weeks ago. And that is Swimming Pool. And this is the R-rated version, not the unrated version. This DVD is pretty hard to find, but I was lucky enough to find it. I haven't watched it yet, but I've been interested in checking it out. It looks like an interesting thriller. I'll probably check it out sometime soon. Next up, we have a triple feature DVD that includes Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3. All 3 of these movies are good. I enjoy those. I don't have the other Spider-Man movies, but I'll probably get those eventually. I'd like to upgrade these 3 movies to Blu-ray at some point, but all 3 of these movies are awesome movies. I enjoyed those. Next up, we have Stand By Me, which I actually watched this movie for the first time a couple days ago, And wow, what a great movie. I really enjoyed this one. I'll definitely do a review of this movie at some point. Next up is another Pedro Almodovar movie, and that is Talk to Her. Picked this one up a little while ago. I haven't watched it yet, but I'll definitely give this movie a watch sometime soon. Maybe I'll give it a watch maybe tonight. I don't know, but we'll see though. It looks like an interesting movie. Next up, we have another one of my favorite movies of all time, and that is 13. I did a review of this one back in August, I think. I don't know. I did a review of it a while ago. Very good coming-of-age film from the early 2000s. And it's a very good indie movie, too. It's directed by Catherine Hardwicke, who also directed the first Twilight movie. But, yeah, not Twilight, but this movie, however, this is a really good coming-of-age film. I really enjoyed this one. I like the use of color in it, too. But, yeah, great movie. Next up, we have There Will Be Blood, the only Paul Thomas Anderson movie that I own on DVD. I've watched it once, like, 6 years ago. I haven't watched it ever since, but I remember this movie being really good, and I really enjoyed it. I'll have to give this movie a second watch sometime soon. Next up, we have The Transporter. I enjoyed this movie when I was younger. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I should definitely give it a watch sometime soon. I'll definitely pick up the sequels, except for the fourth one, The Transporter Refueled. I don't know. I'm not interested in the fourth one. Next up is Trumbo. Good movie. Don't really have too much to say about it, but Bryan Cranston did a good job in that one. Next is Turistas, which is kind of like Hostel a little bit. I haven't actually checked it out yet, but I know it's supposed to be kind of similar to Hostel, but I'll probably check it out sometime soon. And then we go to Unbreakable, which, like I said, I really enjoyed Unbreakable. It's one of M. Night Shyamalan's best movies. And M. Night Shyamalan, he's a pretty good director. Some of his movies are good, some of them just suck. But, yeah. Next up is another M. Night Shyamalan movie, and that is The Visit. This one was okay. I liked it a lot when I saw it in theaters, but watching it a few times, it's okay. It's not his best, but it's an alright movie. Next up is V for Vendetta. I'd like to find the 4K of this movie at some point. I have seen it, and I have read the comic book that it was based on. Very good movie. I really enjoyed this one. Next up, we have yet another M. Night Shyamalan movie, and that is The Village. I didn't really like this movie that much. I don't know. I just was not really a big fan of it. And then we have Wanted, which I thought was a pretty underrated action movie from the late 2000s. It's an unrealistic movie, but it's a fun one to watch, but it's an enjoyable movie. Yeah, I switched my hand over because my other hand is getting tired of holding my phone, so yeah. Next up is Waiting, Uncut and Raw. This is the first one. Pretty good comedy. I know there's a sequel called Still Waiting. I don't know if I'll get that one, though. It's supposed to be a direct-to-DVD sequel, and we all know that they usually turn out to being shitty sequels. Next up is Waking Life, another Richard Linklater movie. A very good adult animated movie, and a very trippy movie, too. I really enjoyed this one. It's one of Richard Linklater's best movies. I'm surprised it doesn't have a Blu-ray release. They should definitely release that one on Blu-ray at some point. Next up, we have Wayne's World and the sequel, Wayne's World 2. Haven't checked those movies out yet, but I'll probably check those ones out pretty soon. The next one is We Were Soldiers, a very good Vietnam War movie with Mel Gibson in it. I enjoyed this one. Next up is What About Bob? Don't really have too many things to say about it, but it's a pretty good comedy with Bill Murray. And the last one for movies is Wreck-It Ralph. Really good Disney movie. I do have the sequel, Ralph Breaks the Internet, on Blu-ray. I'll probably upgrade this one to a Blu-ray at some point. And now we move on to TV shows. We're starting up. We have The Americans, the complete first season, and The Americans, the complete second season. I don't have the other seasons of this show. That's because I recently just started watching this show. I'm still on season 1. But The Americans is a very good show. I've been wanting to watch this show for a couple years, but now I finally started watching it fairly recently. I'm still on season 1, but The Americans, very good show. I highly recommend it. It's definitely one of the best shows from the 2010s. And if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. I'm currently on the first season, and I haven't started season 2 yet. I'll definitely get the other seasons of it at some point. There are 6 seasons in total in that series. Next up is American Crime Story, The People vs. O.J. Simpson. A very good mini-series on the trial on O.J. Simpson. I really enjoyed it. Very good performances in it. And then we have Better Call Saul Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3. I do have Season 4 on Blu-ray, and I don't have Season 5 yet, but I'll probably get Season 5 eventually. Which, Better Call Saul is obviously the spin-off to Breaking Bad, which I don't have Breaking Bad, but I have seen Breaking Bad, and Breaking Bad's an amazing show. Better Call Saul, very good show. I like it, although I do think Breaking Bad's better, but it's still a good show. I cannot wait for the final season. And the last one for this shelf is Californication, the first season. I do have the other seasons on the second shelf, which we are going to go to in just a second. So that's it for row 4 and shelf 1. Now let's go back to shelf number 2. Alright, so now we're back on the second shelf with, this shelf just has TV shows. And we're going to start the second shelf off with Californication, the second season. Californication, the third season. The fourth season. The fifth season. The sixth season. And the final season. Californication is a pretty good comedy. Very good comedy series. Not one of my favorite shows, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Although I didn't really care for the last 2 seasons. But it's still a good show. I enjoyed it. And then we have Curb Your Enthusiasm, the first season. The second season. The third season. The fourth season. The fifth season. Sixth season. Seventh season, and the 8th season. I don't have seasons 9 or 10, but I'll probably pick those up eventually. I haven't watched those yet. I haven't watched Curb Your Enthusiasm in a long time, but I'll definitely rewatch this series sometime soon, and I'll definitely check out seasons 9 and 10 eventually. I think it's supposed to be getting a season 11, I'm not sure though. And then the last 8 for this row, we have Dexter, the first season. Dexter, the second season. Dexter, the third season. The fourth season, my favorite season in the series. The fifth season. Sixth season. Seventh season. And I guess we can't call it the final season now, but we have the 8th season. I guess we can't call it the final season now since I know that it's actually going to be coming back this year for a 10-part revival, well, limited series, kind of like what they did with Prison Break. I'm really excited for that. But Dexter, really great show, although I'd say the first 4 seasons of Dexter are the best season. Season 5 was still a pretty good season, and I didn't mind Season 6. I know some people weren't big fans of Season 6, but I enjoyed Season 6 for what it was. The 7th season was okay, and I didn't really like the 8th season that much. But hopefully the 10-part limited series will be better. And now onto the second row, we have Nurse Jackie Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, Season 5, Season 6, and Season 7, the final season. This is another Showtime show. I really enjoyed this series. I thought it was a pretty underrated series from the late 2000s to the mid to 2010s. It's a really good show with Edie Falco, who you might know from The Sopranos. She played as Camilla in that show. But very good show about a nurse with a drug addiction and all that. I recommend it. Next up, we have Robot Chicken Season 1, the only season that I have on DVD. I know that the first 6 or 7 seasons got released on DVD, but the other seasons did not get released in North America and Canada for whatever reason. But I'll try to find the other seasons of Robot Chicken at some point if I can find them. But Robot Chicken is a good adult animated show. It's pretty funny. And the next up, we have another one of my, we have one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and that is oh, this one's in wrong order. We got seasons 1 and 2, season 3, season 4, season 5, season 6, season 7, season 8, and season 9. Great sitcom, one of my favorite shows of all time. Yeah, don't really have too much else to say about it other than it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And the last one for this row, we have Sons of Anarchy Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, Season 4, Season 5, and Season 6. And on the third row, we have the final season. Sons of Anarchy, really, really great show. I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix and Amazon Prime Video. And I think it's on Disney Plus, I believe. I don't know. I don't have Disney Plus. But, yeah. Really, really great show. I recommend it. I know there's a spin-off series called Mayans MC. I haven't checked it out, but I'll probably check it out someday. Although I hear it's not as good as Sons of Anarchy. But I'll check it out eventually. And the last one for TV seasons and the last DVD for this video is Wonder Shows in Season 1. Picked it up recently. Haven't actually watched it yet. It's an adult animated show, so I'll probably check it out sometime soon. It looks like a pretty bizarre show. And we just got all this stuff on the last row. And that's my DVD collection. So that's going to be it for the video. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, please leave a like, please leave a comment below, and subscribe for more videos like this. And feel free to check out my last year's video on my DVD collection. And also feel free to follow me on Instagram. But anyways, thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. And until next time, this is Keegan Shepard signing off. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.